Good morning, everyone. Well, let me feel the energy. I know after breakfast sometimes, and the way that we are sluggish. But good morning, everyone. Wow, I'm told it's afternoon already. So good afternoon, everyone. All right. So my name is Ronald. Okay, perfect. The slides are in. I don't have a clicker, so I'm working with them on the back to go next. I'm from a company called Notify, and that's Notify. What we do is to help SMEs and businesses to create AI into their operations. There's a lot of buzz around AI, LLMs, and all that, but when you speak to most people, the best they are doing is using ChatGPT. And what I'm trying to do today is to set out and use some functions so I can start using AI for your operations and for your. I should add this one. Okay, so for your operations and all that. So next slide. All right. Next slide. Okay, so just click on so everything shows. So next slide. So like I mentioned, the objectives would be, I think maybe in the interest of time, I would stick to my backup plan. I am a huge technology fan, but I also believe that technology sometimes shows that, so I have a backup. Yeah, so we'll be showcasing some interesting use cases on how AI is being used in Ghana, and Ghanaian businesses are using AI actually to create a lot of transformation. And what I'll also do as well is to show you practical steps that you can use to start your own AI journey. So right now we're in a very interesting time, and I always tell people that you don't need to have a lot of technical skills in order to start your AI journey. You don't need to have a lot of technical skills to be a programmer because you have prompt engineering and the likes. So what I attempt to do is to also help you to know how to start your AI journey. How many of us over here have social enterprises that we run? So you have a business that is creating impacts one way or the other. So at the end of the day, my target for you is how do you look at the data sets that you have? How do you create models? How do you streamline your operations with the use of AI? And I'll start with Notify's journey. So Notify started in 2013 as a technology company. We started with bulk SMS, but we realized that a lot of impact organizations that were using our services needed to I'm going too fast. Sorry about that. Inclusion. So Notify started in 2013. And when we started, we had a lot of impact organizations that were using our services. I see some even in the room that use our service. And we realized that for most of them, they wanted to engage with local Ghanaians in local languages. They wanted to talk to people who do not read and write English. And one of the biggest challenges was that in order to do that, they needed to communicate locally. And one of our solutions is called Voice SMS, which allows you to send audio recordings to anyone and everyone. And for the very longest time, they had to go to the studio, record messages, and then send that out to businesses or send that out to their audience and whatnot. But with the power of AI, what we realized we could help them do was then now use AI to translate from English into any local language. So imagine I'm a Ghanaian, but imagine I need to communicate with someone in Dagbani. I don't need to now go to the studio, get someone who speaks Dagbani to now translate in order for me to communicate with someone in Dagbani to tell them about the best farming practices that they have to know about and all of that. I can do all of that with the power of AI, and that is the transformational journey that Notify has been on. We realized that we need to move away from just one-way communication to AI-powered customer engagements, and that has been the forefront of the engagements that we have been doing. So in 2022, we launched a solution called Chatbots Africa, and Chatbots Africa allows businesses to automate their sales engagements and all their engagements on social media and online. So you don't have to be available 24/7 to communicate with your audience. Assuming you're a health startup and you need to engage people on different health practices, give them health tips. You don't have to be available 24/7. All you have to do is have an AI agent which will be able to enable you to do all of that. And I'll talk to how you can proceed with that journey. But next slides. So some interesting and exciting companies that are doing amazing stuff around AI. There's one called Farmerline. How many of us know Farmerline? So Farmerline is doing very exciting stuff in the area of AI. And what they are doing is similar. Farmerline. Yes. So Farmerline, what they are doing is very interesting because they use IVR and chatbots to engage with farmers in local languages. So whether the farmer is speaking Tree, Ewe, whatever language, they're able to use the power of IVR. Now IVR is interactive voice response, which means that when you call a number, there's a number that you can call. Once you call the number, you listen in, and you're able to then now speak to an AI agent, which means that instead of they having about 30 or 50 agents that are always responding to queries, they very frequently ask queries. They're able to use AI to respond to that. And the best of it is that it's in local language. And this is a solution that was built by a Ghanaian startup and a Ghanaian individual. Another interesting solution, which I think someone shared a similar solution, is Mino Health. Now, Mino Health is also helping in the space of health, where when you have, let's say, you do your X-ray and you need to find out what's wrong with you and all of that, you're able to use Mino Health to do that. Now, why is Mino Health better than ChatGPT? So ChatGPT is very good, but what happens with ChatGPT, which I'll talk about later on as well, is the fact that the data sets that ChatGPT is trained on are data sets from the Western world, which means that if there are peculiar situations to Africa, to Ghanaians, you are not able to get the right response from ChatGPT, you get a generic response. So what Mino Health is doing is that they've gathered a lot of health data sets around Africa. So what that means is that if you have a peculiar condition, it's able to easily detect that. And that is also another amazing solution that is being used. Then we have the Deaf Can Talk solution as well. So Deaf Can Talk is also very interesting. I met these guys in Tamale, I think sometime 2 weeks ago. And it rides on the text-to-speech and speech-to-text technology, which allows them to assist with not just communication, but also telemedicine and diagnosis and all of that. And the final one is Roki NUSD. So Roki NUSD, I like very much because they are into responsible AI development. Because in the age of AI, it's also very important that AI is used in a very responsible way. So what Roki NUSD does is they have a framework that allows you to know how to deploy AI solutions responsibly. And beyond that as well, they also build different projects. So they have a project around crop disease detection, which means that they've also gathered a lot of data sets to help you detect different crop diseases. And I'm sure in all of my speaking, you realize that I've said a lot about data sets. And how many of us know what data sets are? Just by hand. So data sets are for lack of a better word, they are the seeds that LLM used to grow, right? So there's a huge difference in data and data sets. I was in the panel discussion the last time and that came up. So we have a lot of data around us. For example, there's data around rainfall, there's data on the traffic in Accra and all of that. But data sets is being able to then now take that data, create annotations on that, and use that data to train an LLM in order to be able to make meaningful information, to be able to get meaningful data out of that, or meaningful results out of that. So a typical example, from here, I'm going to AICC to launch a chatbot that we built for entrepreneurs and around policies for entrepreneurs. So what happens is that we had to gather a lot of policies from different areas. But after gathering all of that policies, you had to annotate them and create a data set out of that, which will feed into the LLM to operate. So why is all of this important? All of this is important because I believe strongly that Africa needs to tell the story of Africans. If you go to ChatGPT, a lot of LLMs, you'd find very generic information about Africa because we haven't fed it with the right LLMs and with the right data sets that we need to. And the exciting thing is that you don't need to now build an LLM on your own. All you need to do is to have data sets for what you are doing. So if you are a social enterprise that is into skincare or skincare related diseases, all you have to do is ask yourself, what is the data that I have around skin? What are the various skin types that are available? What are the sicknesses that people come very often to me? And once you have all of that data, you're able to create data sets out of that and use open source models to create your own LLM, which you can use right on the go for your institution. And I'll share some bits on that as well. So next set of slides. So just to talk a little bit about mNotify, and I won't bore you with that, but some exciting stuff that we are doing is in the line of IVR, AI IVR technology, where you're able to use AI to enhance your engagement, and you're able to use AI to also drive personalization, which means that if you run an organization, you're able to, with the power of AI, be able to address each customer as if they were the only customer that you know and you work with, which is very exciting in our times because for us to scale as Africans, we need to be able to overcome the barrier, the language barrier, which means that we should be able to speak every and any language. We also need to make sure that we are available 24/7 because different people have different demands and coming at different times as well. And one of the exciting solutions that we are coming up with next year is agentic AI workflows. So I always tell people that we are gradually moving away from the era of chatbots to agentic AI, which means that now it's not just enough to do research with AI, but you now need to be able to let AI do the work for you. So for those who use ChatGPT and Gemini, you notice that now they're also introducing agentic workflows that can not only give you the research, but you notice that it goes to the website, gets the information and all of that. So that is the age that we are in currently. But as much as AI is exciting and all of these tools are exciting, there are some challenges that we always face, and we can move on to the next slide. There are some challenges that we always face, and some of the challenges that I would want to address or talk about today has to do with one that I've said several times throughout my presentation today. The fact that AI relies solely on data. So we need to make sure that if you are going to use AI for our company, let's forget about ChatGPT, but let's focus on creating data and having data sets for our own businesses, for our own social enterprises. So for example, the lady with the Empower Playground can focus on data sets that you can have for your organization. How many areas do you have the playgrounds? How many people come in every time? What are the times that they come in? And with all of these data sets, you're able to then now make projections on areas that you need to have different playgrounds. You can use that to analyze hotspots and all of that, and use the power of AI to then now be able to expand quicker, right? So that is one way that you can use AI. But it all starts with data and being able to make data sets out of that. Now, another challenge, I'm way past this slide, next slide. So another challenge as well has to do with integrating AI into legacy systems. So for most of us, we use AI on one side and we have our internal applications separately on the other side. And the big challenge is, how do you integrate AI into your operations? And the biggest challenge of all is our employees and staff. There's all these debates around AI is replacing human beings and AI will cause job displacements, which I'll not go into. But as entrepreneurs or as business owners or as change makers, the onus is on us to first and foremost make sure that for our staff, we empower them mentally to understand that the 21st century illiterate is not someone who doesn't know how to use Word or PowerPoint or Microsoft. It's someone who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn, which means that what you learn in school in the next few years is likely to change. What you know about AI today in the next month is likely to change. So once they're able to adapt to change, they would remain in employment forever. But to my next slides, how we overcome some of these challenges, which is where I would want you to pay more attention to, and which is where I believe a lot of my focus would be on. We first need to make sure that we have clear business objectives for how we want to use AI in our social enterprise. It's good to know that you want to create impact, but how can you create impact with technology? How can you create impact with AI? I was having a wonderful conversation with my friend from Pududu Consult, Harry, and he was telling me about one exciting solution that they had. And I was telling him about how AI can help them exponentially grow the audience for that solution. So we always need to start with a goal. And you also need to start small with a pilot as well. So anytime we want to integrate AI into our operations, we need to ask ourselves, where is the smallest part of my business that can see the biggest return on investment if I use AI? Most importantly, we also have to invest in our employees. So I'm on the next slide. I think I'm moving faster than. So what I'll do is that I'll give you the heading, then maybe you just load the slides. Yes, so overcoming the challenge, yeah. So it's very important that we train our employees and also learn from our employees. So at MNotify, I have a group of people I call the AI champions. And the job of the AI champions is to teach me how to use AI and teach me some of the new things that I do not know about AI. Because as a leader, I strongly believe that I don't know it all. And I work with people, and these are very brilliant people. So as leaders in our businesses, as much as we want to create impact, it's up to us to also identify very good people who are passionate about AI. And once a month, once a quarter, we have meetings to discuss some of the solutions that they can potentially help us with. But beyond the opportunities and the challenges and overcoming them, what are some of the biggest risks that are available with AI? So that goes to the next slide, potential risk associated with AI. So there's a lot of digital divide, there's a lot of inequality, and there's a lot of bias. So digital divide because, AI runs on internet, right? And for the most places in Ghana, we do not have very stable internet. But anytime we are developing AI solutions, we need to also look at other channels that they could work on. So for example, running AI on voice solutions, which is what Pharmaline is doing with their IVR technology. How do you run AI on edge devices? How do you make sure that AI is not only speaking to those who can read and write? So for example, how do we incorporate voice recorder or voice accessibility in our development of AI? How do we also then reduce the bias? There's also the issue of privacy and surveillance. For those of us in healthcare, we have solutions that we are building around healthcare about how are we making sure that we are data protection compliance. Now, data protection has this thing they call data impact assessment. How many of us know about that? How many of us are making sure that whatever tools that we are building are compliant with Ghana's data protection? And for those of us even looking at scaling beyond Ghana, how are we making sure that it's in line with EU's General Data Protection Act? That is also very, very important. And on the subject of job displacement, that is also a big risk. But like I mentioned earlier, it's up to us as change leaders to make sure that we are creating the right kind of environment for our staff, for our employees to grow out of that. So AI in our time has to be developed in a very responsible way. And that goes to my next slide about responsible AI. Yes. So in our time when we need to develop AI in a very responsible way, once you identify the area where you can best get you can best make use of AI, you need to ask yourself, how do you develop it in a very responsible way? So it certainly starts with the data, right? So anytime we are gathering data, we need to make sure that we are gathering data which is inclusive and also has context, right? Because context is very important for any LLM, any large language model that you use, because large language models are basically just a platform that is giving out information based on the information that you have already fed it with, which is the data sets. So it's very important that when we are gathering our data sets, or when we are building our data sets, we make sure that there's inclusivity, and that is what the Western world lacks, and that is why most of the platforms that we use, when you search for a black image, you still get something that is close to a white. Or for those of us who use other tools like HeyGen, anytime you try to do text to speech, you always get a foreign voice and all of that. And I'm happy to say that there's a company called Ghana NLP, which is also doing very well with gathering a lot of voice in local languages that can be used for that purpose as well. Transparency and evaluation is also very important. So for us that are very interested in building our AI models, the other thing you need to know or you need to be aware of is explainable AI. How does AI arrive at the response that you get? Is it the right response first and foremost? Is it an inclusive response? And beyond all of that, how does it arrive at that response? So my friend who was doing the AI project around scans and all of that, how does it ensure that you get the right diagnosis? What is the criteria to ensure that the diagnosis was actually the right kind of diagnosis are very important when building our AI models. Data governance also is very important, and data sovereignty, and that is one of the things that the government of Ghana is trying to kindly work on, to make sure that we own our data, so that our data models are not on a server somewhere in EU or somewhere in the US, to make sure that NITA is able to house our data locally. So that is something that's very important. And for those of us that have very sensitive data, you can host some of these data models locally and these LLMs locally on your server in-house, on a computer, on a laptop. And I'll show you some of the tools that you can also use to do that. So next slide. All right. So at mNotify, what we do essentially is also to help impact organizations to kickstart their journey, which means that what we do is to sit down with you and help you identify the areas where you can have the most impact. Then once you have that, we help you to also gather the data sets and label the data sets and then input that into an LLM that allows you to be able to deploy your AI model. And for us, there are a few things that are very exciting for us, which I'll just have a quick slide on to speak to. So next slide. And which is a solution that came, or which birthed as a result of the entrepreneurship policy chatbot that we built. We realized that a lot of businesses always are out there looking for grants and other opportunities. And for most of them, they have to manually search different websites. So what we have done is to build an agentic AI model called Grants Arena. And the job of Grants Arena essentially is to say that this is my business. I am into preeclampsia, which is a condition for pregnant women. And I need to know what are the grant opportunities that are available for me to be able to scale what I'm doing. Now, what this agentic AI model does is that every day, every second, is always looking out there, looking for various opportunities that will be best suited for you. And once it gets these opportunities, it gives you an alert and helps you to also create a right application that you can submit based on the eligibility criteria that they are given. Another interesting solution that we have as well is Care Arena. And Care Arena is a solution that is also an agentic AI solution, which means that, and essentially the way it works is that, let's say I care about cholera or cholera outbreak. So what I do is that I don't need to be a knowledge expert for cholera, but there are a lot of data around cholera which has been gathered into data sets for cholera. So what I do is that I go and tell it that I want to educate people in Greater Accra region about cholera. Automatically it creates different learning points and different topics based on the learning patterns of people within Greater Accra, and is able to send out voice messages to them in local languages, be it Gantry, Fanti, and they're able to also respond and do all of that. And the purpose for us building this solution is just to highlight the fact that agentic AI is not the future, and it's bigger than just having conversations on ChatGPT and researching and all of that. But what tools did we use to build some of these exciting things? And that is what I want to talk about in my next slide. And that is where I want to challenge all of us to get our hands dirty and try out. So one of the tools that we used, or one of the frameworks that platforms that we got a tool to use was called Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is an open source, yes. So, okay, so there's Teachable Machine. So Teachable Machine also helps to build models without coding. So remember what I said about data, right? So once you go Teachable Face, and it's a tool by Google, all you have to do is to gather all of your data, put that into a data set by creating annotations for them, which the platform also helps you to do that. Then once you do all of that, you're able to deploy a low-level LLM locally on your device or on the cloud, which you can use to make any analytics, or which you can use for your business one way or the other. The other tool is also Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is very interesting because for a lot of the LLMs that have been built out there, they are all available on Hugging Face. So with Hugging Face, similarly, all you have to do is to take your data, create annotations, create data sets from there, and from there you're able to automatically have an LLM that operates locally. There's also GitHub. I don't know how many of you know GitHub. So GitHub is a tool that a lot of developers use. But the truth about GitHub as well is that it has a repository of different codes that have been built by different people. So for anyone who needs to build an agentic AI workflow, or you need to build an LLM for your business, you don't need to focus about writing the codes and all of that. They have very good documentation, which when you follow, you can just input all of your data in there. And once you have your data in there, you're able to, for example, do plant disease classification. So if you know the different types of plant diseases, just take pictures of them and say, okay, for this particular picture, this is the kind of disease. And you're able to add all of that to the LLM, which is loop.ai, and it's able to, for example, give you different responses on the models. Then the last model I want to talk about as well is Fast AI, which does not only give you different models that you can play around with, but also gives you courses on how to integrate your data in the models and how to also build your low-level AI models. So why are all of this important? All of this is important because of one thing, the fact that for a lot of us in Ghana, we think that we cannot use AI in our businesses. We think that all we can do is ChatGPT and all we can do is rely on an external tool. But the reality of the matter is that for most of these tools out there, they're already on the internet, and all we have to do is to get our data sets, train our data sets, and just input them into these LLMs. So what I have for you is a charge. But before the charge, I would like to say that the key takeaways that I would want you to take note of is the fact that AI is a critical driver for competitiveness and operational efficiency in the 21st century. And you need to learn how to begin small with a focused project. You also need to learn how to rely on partnerships. There are a lot of things happening, especially at the universities, a lot of research work that has been done with the universities, which is a good source of data for you to create your data models which can run these LLMs on. And it's very important that we look at some of these partnerships as a way to grow our business and grow our social enterprises. And like I said, M-Notify as well, at M-Notify, we are also looking at being able to transform enterprises and how they use AI to unlock exponential growth for what they are doing. But my charge for you today is for you to think as technology for good, as not just a term or not just you putting AI together with automation, but to see it as a tool to create impact, to create inclusivity, and above all, to evaluate the change that we are causing in our environment. And it's very important for us to learn how to collaborate. And smart impact means impact with empowering people, impact the empowering communities, and not just deploying fancy tools which would make it on Forbes or on CNN. On that note, I want to say a big thank you.